All right, so this is the new ViewSonic board that'll be coming in after the April break for the new installs. You can see that there is a web camera that'll be mounted to the top so that you can use this board for Google Meets. And the board is attached to a mobile stand that can be moved across the classroom anywhere you want. You'll have a 15-foot lead that goes to an outlet that'll allow you to plug it in anywhere there's an outlet, essentially, whether it's in the hall or in your classroom, doesn't matter. The stand will go up and down, motorized, so that you can raise or lower it depending on obstacles in the room, students in the room, etc. You can also, on the front of this board, plug in a USB device like a document camera or a portable DVD drive in order to show videos on this TV. Interactive panel is what I should call it. So there's a power button there. The rest of the buttons aren't really as important. You do have a volume up and down. Those are really the only three buttons you're going to use regularly. You might also use the source button. Okay. On the back of this board are two computers. There is the Dell Mini PC, which is the one that we're going to use for most things on the interactive board. And then there is an Android box that's attached to the panel also. It's built into the panel. So for the proper setup, and students do like to play with these cables, you have two cables coming out of the Android box. One is for the touch sensor, and one is for the picture, the HDMI. These two cables, the touch sensor and the HDMI cable, come up here to the back of the PC, and they only plug in, the HDMI only plugs into one place, and then the USB can go into any of the USB ports. You'll find 4 USB ports on the back of this Dell PC and 1 on the front. Okay, I tend to keep as many things plugged into the back as you can because students can quickly grab things from this side. They also like to disconnect those cables and then your touch stops working. So just so you know where they plug in case. You'll see a power strip over on this side with 3 things plugged into it, the Dell PC, the TV, and then the motorized stand, and then there's an on-off switch. Kids will also trip this switch on you so there's no power to anything even though it's plugged in. So always check that too if you're having an issue. All right, the stand is completely easily mobile. You can twist it, turn it, put it in there. All right, when the screen comes up on the ViewSonic, it's going to look a little different than the Promethean, but essentially you will see a source box down here. On the Promethean, you press a key to get it, and we're going to choose DP for Dell PC to switch over to that computer. All right, we can then log in using the remote keyboard and mouse that come with a stand that can be raised and lowered and moved around the room. Okay, if you get a message like this, it's because you didn't turn the power on to the Dell PC. So you're just going to click that button, and just like your PC in your office, it'll come on, and then eventually this no signal sign will go away, and you'll see the boot screen, and from that point on, this computer works exactly like any other PC at Shen. So when you first turn on the machine, it's going to come up like this. You have a choice between using the whiteboard software that comes with Viewboard. Not going to recommend that because if you want to broadcast to CBL students, that won't work. Or you can use the Dell PC, which I also showed you is attached on the back here. So I'm going to choose Dell PC. It takes me into a Windows PC, which looks exactly like your desktop at work. I signed in the exact same way using my Bulljohn account. Okay, it's an exact PC. Okay. All right. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is hold and long press on the screen for a right click. You can also use the mouse to do the right click. And you're going to choose Display Settings right here. And when you do that, it's going to bring you to the desktop. There are 2 ways to make the icons appear bigger because this is a 4K TV, so it's a really high resolution, and everything's going to appear really small when you first get it. So one thing you can do is either use the zoom, although I wouldn't recommend that because there are a few applications that when you go into it and it's zoomed in, they go back to that high resolution where everything's tiny. The better way is to change the resolution on the entire TV. So rather than having it at the default, which is 3840 by 2160, I'm going to suggest you move the resolution down to the same as your PC, which is 1920 by 1080. And what you'll get when you do that is a fairly good size of icons for the students to be able to see it from the back of the classroom. All right. One of the things I did was I also set up the Google Drive app, which if you type Drive in your search box here, it'll appear. You click on the Google Drive app, it takes you to a point where you can verify, and by doing this and saying allow and sign in, you'll get a success, and down here it'll start loading your Google Drive. So then when you look at the drives on this computer, you will see Google Drive D as an option, and you can save directly to that from any of the whiteboard software. You can open up Google Slideshows, everything directly from this PC without having to go to your drive up here in a tab. So I also have a Google Meet that I started and it's open currently. I'm teaching remotely to a CDL student. I want to present my screen. Anything that's on my screen at that point, including annotations that I might make, will go out to that student. So what I need to show you is how can I do annotations on the screen on these machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to open up my Google Drive, and then I'm going to open up a presentation or something that I want to write on top of. Oh, actually, let's go to a shared drive because that's where most of my presentations are. Alright, so I've got my presentation up for my day's lesson, and I want to annotate on top of it. So how do I draw on this and have students see it? I can draw on it, it'll go out over the Google Meet. I won't be able to keep any of the drawings because annotating over desktop does not allow us to do that. You could take a screen capture of the screen to do it, but it doesn't go out, it doesn't save into a Google Slideshow. You can use Jamboard if you want to actually write on the slide and have that writing stay and be able to be saved to the future, or you can use one of the many applications that allows you to use a whiteboard. ActiveInspire is going to be pre-installed, my viewboard eventually will be, or I can help you install whiteboard software. ActiveInspire actually does a little more things than whiteboard at this point, so it's really the preferred one anyway, and it doesn't matter whether you're using a Promethean or a ViewSonic to use this ActiveInspire software. So I'm going to load it up, and you'll notice it loads up really actually quickly on these little mini Dell PCs, especially compared to how long it takes on yours. Okay, I can write on these slides simply by selecting the pen tool and then writing on here. Okay, you can have as many blank slides to write on as you want. You got one currently, but if you hit the next page button, you now have number 2. You hit the next page button, you have number 3. So you can see I have multiple slides in my presentation. I can insert images on here. I can import a PDF and annotate over the top of the PDF. And that'll allow me to do that. So if I want to go back to that slideshow and write on it, I use this annotate button here. I click it, it takes me back to my desktop, and then I make sure I'm on the mouse. I open up my presentation, make it full screen, go back to my pen tool, and now I can annotate on here. However, when I go to the next slide in that presentation, those annotations stay because it's like using an overhead. So I have to clear those annotations, and now I can do different ones, whether it's underlining or highlighting, doesn't matter. So you can annotate on top of a Google Slideshow, and it will be going out live over that Google Meet as you're presenting your whole screen. So that'll deal with remote students. So when you're done annotating on desktop, you're simply going to click on the annotate tool. It brings you back here. You'll notice we currently have 2 flip charts open. So when I close it, remember, I also have the option to go into File, Save As, and my Google Drive will appear here as long as you set it up using the Drive app, and the icon appears down here. Okay, there's a separate video on that, and I can walk you through it on the phone. It really doesn't take too long. Okay, so you can use the My Promethean ActiveInspire software to annotate over anything that is on your desktop, and you cannot save those annotations. If you want to write on the screen and save it, you should either be not in this, you should be in ActiveInspire and make those 3 slides, or you could use Google Jamboard, which also allows you to write on the slide. You'll have 2 pens that come with the viewboard or the Promethean, or you can use your finger.